Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. In this program today, we will analyze why Pakistan has become a safe haven for terrorists. Pakistan hosts the maximum number of terrorists prescribed by the United Nations, and its government is providing pension to UN designated terrorists. India has highlighted this ugly truth of Pakistan at the Human Rights Commission in response to Pakistan's continuous rant on Kashmir. We will discuss this aspect of Pakistan in the agenda today and try to understand the country's character. We have with us retired diplomat Ambassador Deepak Vora and retired Major General Ashwani Sawaj. But before we start our conversation, have a look at this small report.
As Pakistan continues to rant about Kashmir, India has highlighted to the world the ugly facts of Pakistan, like the government pampering of terrorists and persecution of minorities, including the Shia and Ahmadi Muslims. India spoke about these issues at the UN Human Rights Council after Pakistan made certain claims about the situation in Kashmir. Pawan Bade, first secretary in the Indian mission to the UN, spoke about Pakistan's dubious distinction of hosting the largest number of terrorists sanctioned by the United Nations. He also mentioned how Pakistan government is providing pension to dreaded UN designated terrorists out of the state funds even when it is facing dire economic situation. His reference was to top terrorist of Lashkar-e-Taiba Zaki-ur-Rahman Lakhvi, who is also mastermind of 2008 Mumbai terror attack. For him, Pakistan has made a plea to the UN to allow payment of rupees 1.5 lakh pension per month. Significantly, the UN had approved that petition. Bade said Pakistan has become the largest producer of terrorists, and the fact was being acknowledged even by some Pakistani leaders. Not only has Pakistani state been pampering terrorists, it has also been subjecting minorities to persecution. Bade said the UN Human Rights Council should ask Pakistan why the size of minorities such as Christians, Hindus and Sikhs has drastically shrunk since independence, and why they and other communities such as Ahmadiyya, Shias, Pashtuns, Sindhis and Baloch have been subjected to draconian blasphemy laws, systemic persecution, blatant abuses and forced conversions. Clearly, Pakistan has a lot to look within and answer instead of pointing fingers at India. Here report.
Now let's welcome our guests Ambassador Vora and General Sawaj. Welcome to the program, both of you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, Ambassador Vora, you must have heard about how India highlighted Pakistan's ugly truth about paying of pensions and pampering of terrorists. What do you say on that?
Mr. Cole, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to learn from you, and I'm very pleased that Major General Saab is also on the show. We get a chance to interact. You made a very interesting reference to the character of Pakistan. That country is well known for lacking any kind of character. And then you have talked about pensions for terrorists. They have, of course, been giving pensions and other financial incentives to serving and retired or exterminated terrorist families from state funds. Why am I not surprised? Well, firstly, it is, of course, expensive for Pakistan since, as you rightly pointed out, it hosts the largest number of terrorists who have been banned by the United Nations. बहुत महंगा होगा इनके लिए. And a few weeks ago, you recall that the United Nations Security Council was approached by Pakistan to permit basic expenses from their frozen funds for 2611 mastermind Hafiz Saeed
Zakir Rahman.
Hafiz Saeed and Mahmoud Sultan Bashiruddin, a retired nuclear engineer who's also been indicted. Now, this is a country, sir, that is in search of an identity. Let me leave it at that. Pakistan's exemplary record on terrorism is very clear. We'll come to that in a moment. What happens in a family which has 2, 3, 4, 5 children? The worst of the lot tries to gain attention through his or her nuisance value. Pakistan's relevance to the world today is its nuisance value, both as an unprincipled nuclear state and as a rabid proponent of state-sponsored terrorism. It has no relevance otherwise.
Okay, Major General Sivach, you heard Ambassador Vora about Pakistan's relevance. What would you say on that?
Yeah, Ajay, there is no doubt as Pakistan is a hub center of terrorism. You see, maximum international terrorists today are in Pakistan. And Pakistan gave a lot of support to terrorists to grow in within Pakistan. You see, as on today, what has happened is they have mainstream the terrorism even in politics. Remember, in last election, the Hafiz Saeed has floated a new party called Allahu Akbar Tariq. When it was not recognized by the election commission, then they fought on a Milli Muslim League, which is an entity which was lying dormant, and they almost got 7 to 8% seat. Now, this is the actual character of Pakistan today. Unfortunately, there are 30 to 40,000 terrorists at any point of time, which has been admitted by their own ministers. So that is the ground reality. And today what has happened is that they are sending Lashkar-e-Toba, Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir, and Haqqani group and Taliban in Afghanistan, and Sunni militants in Iran. And what is happening is that today, terrorists like Omar Sheikh, who is being convicted for the murder of Daniel Paul, American journalist, he is released by the court. Irony is that even the courts are in handing gloves with the state government when it comes to terrorists. Terrorists are being pensioned in Pakistan. It is height of, you can say, issue that where the terrorists are not only they are considered as a semi-god like Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar, they are also given the pension from the taxes which are collected of the people. So this is what it is. The foundation like Jaish-e-Mohammed and Hafiz Saeed of Lashkar-e-Toba, they have also floated a charitable, so-called charitable organization called Fly Insaniyat Foundation, which is only meant to collect funds for terrorism. And this is what it is now becoming very popular in Pakistan. So overall, the track record of Pakistan is very poor as far as terrorists are concerned, and that is why they are in grey list. And there is a chance of them being downgraded to grey to black list for money laundering and terrorist funding in June this year. Because the point is they have failed to take serious action against. Today, Pakistan is nothing else but a hub center of terrorism, and it can be very conveniently called a terrorist star.
Yeah, we all know that when we talk about the character of Pakistan, as according to the latest information, 130 UN designated terrorists and 25 terrorist entities which have been sanctioned by UNSC are existing in Pakistan. Ambassador Vora, so what is UNSC doing about it?
The United Nations, are you talking about that, sir?
Yeah,
Well,
United Nations.
I'm special advisor to the government in South Sudan, and the president once told me in a very clever statement, he says, as far as they are concerned in Africa, UN stands for unnecessary. Sir, let's face it, the United Nations is an entity whose expiry date is over. Pakistan's exemplary record on terrorism is very clear. I think it was 2 years ago, sir, that this exiled dictator Pervez Musharraf, who claims to be on his deathbed, he admitted that Pakistan had trained and supported groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba to carry out attacks in Kashmir, and disgraced former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif acknowledged that Pakistan was involved in the Mumbai terror attack, which of course he was blasted by the present government. Then 2 years ago, this fellow called Niazi, whatever this character is who plays cricket and claims to be the Prime Minister of that country, he accepted that there were between 30 and 40,000 armed terrorists in Pakistan. And remember, sir, that a character called Osama bin Laden was killed in Pakistan in 2011. Sir, these are not facts that we are inventing. These are well known to the whole world. Let me tell you something else that perhaps not too many people might remember. I'm sure General Saab does. There was a former Pakistani DGMO involved in the Kargil misadventure, a chap called Lieutenant General Shahid Aziz. He was killed in Afghanistan, probably last year while fighting for the Islamic State, to atone for his sins in killing Muslims on America's behalf. And I mean, what do you do with a chap like this? What do you do with a country like this, where the second highest level in the military become militants, become terrorists, and start training and supporting the people they were fighting against? Some years ago, the American think tank Brookings Institution had written that with the exception of Iran, Pakistan was the world's most active sponsor of terrorism. So what relevance does Pakistan have in today's world? UN Human Development Index ranking, 154 out of 183. Broken economy, dysfunctional education system, non-existent public services. Therefore, it becomes the global epicenter of terrorism and promotes itself as such. Claiming all the time, sir, as that buffoon who masquerades as their foreign minister says, we have nuclear weapons. So if you talk to the fellow about climate change, he'll begin by saying, we have nuclear weapons. If you talk to him about going out to dinner, he'll say, we have nuclear weapons. If you talk to him about driving a different car, he'll say, we have nuclear weapons. What kind of a state is this? What kind of a phantom country is this? And I believe it stands exposed today, thanks to the efforts made by India under the leadership of its Prime Minister. Sir, everybody understands that Pakistan has been playing both sides in the fight against terror. On the one hand, demonstrating its help to curtail terrorist activities, while on the other hand, stoking it. I'm not saying this. The Pakistani journalist Ahmed Rashid said this. The author Ted Garland Carpenter has said this. The Financial Action Task Force, by keeping Pakistan on the grey list, has said this. What more evidence do you need? The only way that this country will change its behavior if it is completely internationally isolated and it collapses through an internal movement, which I don't see happening as long as that monster called the Pakistani military is in command. I rest my case, except to add, autocratic leaders in the past have made efforts to acquire a nuclear capability or flirted with terrorism, but international exposure and pressure thwarted their ambition. Remember a character called Muammar Gaddafi, who tried to buy nukes from China and supported terrorism, bombing of an American plane? What happened to him? He's now gone to meet the 70 virgins in heaven. Saddam Hussein, he tried very hard, also sponsored terrorism, but the Gulf Wars ended his ambitions and his life. Sir, Pakistan's dalliance with terrorism, General Saab, has damaged the moral fiber of its people. ये France में incidents हुए थे late last year. There was a Pakistani who was accused, and that fellow's father says, I'm proud that my son is killing people in the name of Islam. What do you do with a nation like this,
so, Major General,
except to isolate and expose them?
Yeah, General Sivach, as you heard, Ambassador Vora being very emotional and saying what can be done about a country like Pakistan, and he also mentioned about Osama bin Laden. I mean, when the Prime Minister of a country describes Osama bin Laden as a martyr, so that is a signal to others also, I mean, in the country, what to do. What do you say on that?
Absolutely correct. Ajay, see, there are 3-4 things which stand out as a Pakistani concern. You see, first of all, the Pakistan is concerned its track record of its own minority. That must be also taken into consideration. You know, when Pakistan got independence, the minority were more than 20%, which are Hindu, Sikh, Christian. Today they are shrunk to less than 2%. Because majority of them either have been killed or they have been converted or they have run away from Pakistan. Now this is how they treat their minority. Whether it is in Balochistan or whether it is in Gilgit-Baltistan, people are up in arms. They want a freedom from Pakistan. Because the fact is they are considered as a second-class citizen. And same thing is happening in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. They are realizing that our side of Jammu Kashmir is on the path of development. But what is happening in POK is pathetic. That their main source of water called Neelam River, its source also changed. It has diverted from POK, from Muzaffarabad toward Punjab. Now, this is the track record of Pakistan keeping its own minority. As far as its track record of terrorism is concerned, it goes beyond saying that today Pakistan deserves to be downgraded from grey to blacklist because the track record is very poor. They have refused to take action. Not only refused, they are in action against certain militants like Hafiz Saeed, Masood Azhar. They are too powerful for this country because what has happened over a period of time, they have made this monster that which they cannot touch it. The another thing which they are now become a victim is that today they are in a debt trap. because this China-Pakistan economic corridor, which is basically a flagship project of BRI of China, is now going through from Pakistan, going from Balochistan to Gilgit-Baltistan. This is putting the Pakistan in a complete debt trap, which it was already there with 62 billion. Today there is a debt of $115 billion. They need $4 billion every year just to pay the interest of the loan taken. Inflation rate is more than 30% today. The foreign exchange reserve has dipped down to almost $7 to $8 billion, less than Afghanistan. Can't look after more than 15. Their investment is not coming at all. The export is almost zero. In this critical situation, they are all depending upon terrorism and their instrument of state.
General Sivaj, here I may interrupt you. So, despite all the economic crisis, Pakistan government is sparing some money to pay to terrorists as pension. So what do you think?
Absolutely. You see, they want to give this money even to Sri Lanka also. It was laughable. The $50 million they were giving a line of credit to Sri Lanka. You see, the country, but the answer given by Pakistan was very correct. They said, from where will you get this money? He said, we are
from
used
Sri Lanka.
To borrow the money from someone else and we will pass it on to Sri Lanka. No, this is what it is as far as Pakistan is concerned. You know, the irony is, world has refused to take a strong action against Pakistan, and its ardent friend like China is saving it too long. And unfortunately, America also is not very serious in taking action against Pakistan for the region, for Afghanistan, because in Afghanistan, Pakistan plays a major role because it has a total linkage with Taliban. If America want to exit from Afghanistan, it needs Pakistan to support them to have a treaty or a relationship between Taliban and America.
For brokering the deal,
what happened is that Pakistan makes use of this geostrategic location and trying to now only work on one issue, how to increase terrorism in the whole world. You know, the irony, Ajay, anywhere, any terrorist action taking place in the world, you can track the routes in Pakistan. No, this is the track record. It is unfortunate the world is quiet, but it is always never too late. Pakistan
I'll come to you. I'll come back to you. But Ambassador Vora wants to say something before I come back to you.
Well, the General has put it brilliantly. I can't improve on what he has said. The question that comes to my mind, with a shattered economy, unable to sustain its bloated military, exploding population, where does Pakistan get the money from to fund all this, to give pensions? Obviously from terrorism and drug. These are attractive options for the country and serve their obsession with hurting India. Now, since Pakistan is broke, the money probably comes from donors or some stupid rich people. Pakistan's fascination with terrorism, Mr. Kaul, is based on radical Islam and a ferocious medieval tribalism. You know, it comes from a feeling of hopelessness and powerlessness. Illiterate youth.
Let
me complete this, sir. These are illiterate youth, poor, directionless. They live in Pakistan's teeming slums. No bright spot on the horizon. Educated in hatred spewing madrasas. They become the foot soldiers and cannon fodder for jihad. Sir, what has gone wrong? Please tell me, with a nation created by Caesarean section in 1944 to be the world's new Medina. Kahan chala gaya hai ye desh? What is the hope for a country that is on auto-destruct?
Right, but at the same time, we have to talk about international organization. Like if you talk about USA, Daniel Pearl murderer has been let off. FATF is giving a loose rope. I don't know, they have been keeping Pakistan in the grey list for last 3 years now. And again, giving them chances and chances. Tariq pe tariq. So international community apparently also is not keen to crack down on Pakistan. What do you say, Ambassador Vora?
Not once has the United Nations listed Pakistan as a state sponsor of terrorism. They've listed Iran and North Korea and what have you, but not Pakistan. As the General rightly pointed out, their best hope at the moment for their planned exit from Afghanistan is Pakistan.
But UNSC has sanctioned people, I mean terrorists there, and they roam freely in Pakistan, and UNSC knows that. So what kind of sanctions?
Sir, you know this very well. when we were victims of terrorism, when we became victims of terrorism, late 80s, early 90s, I mean, we used to complain to everybody who would listen to us. I was posted in various countries. They would all turn around and say, look, this is your poor country, third world syndrome. This is a law and order situation. It doesn't bother us. Don't waste our time. But when 9/11 happened, suddenly they woke up and said, hey, where's the file that you were talking about? I mean, terrorism has come to our backyard. And that is when they woke up to take notice. So this is the reality of the world. While it didn't hurt them, they couldn't care less. When it hurted them, then they understood. Now, Pakistan is in a state where it is collapsing. Nobody has any doubt about it. The worry, sir, which a lot of very intelligent Americans, as you know, I just spent several months over there, have told me is what will happen to the nuclear weapons. If Pakistan's economic situation is so desperate, will it sell its nukes to the first terrorist who comes along with $1 billion? I don't know the answer to this. The general probably knows. Pakistan's passport ranks at the bottom of the Henley Passport Index. Anything around the world, as you rightly said, any terrorist incident has a Pakistani connection. Any major drug haul has a Pakistani connection. What does one do when, as you rightly pointed out, the Prime Minister says that Osama bin Laden is an Islamic martyr? What do you do with this nation? So I don't know. The UNSC is incapable of doing anything because of the consensus thing and the veto of that stupid nation.
Right. General Sivacha, as you heard that what to be done, what should be done? As we know, UNSC, as Ambassador War also pointed out, has become irrelevant or toothless.
See, multi-pronged strategy is the only solution, Ajay. The fact is that, 2-3 things stand out. One is that what we are trying to convey is this financial action task force must place Pakistan from grey to black. But to me, it looks like that Pakistan is trying its best to come out even from grey list, because it has implemented, so-called implemented by and large 24 points, and 3 points mainly money laundering and terrorist fund is left. In case they get a 12 votes out of 36, which can vote in financial action task force, and it is trying to move Joe Biden administration, because America can influence almost 7 to 8 countries. If they get 12 votes in June this year, there is a chances of their coming out even from grey list. That will be the irony of the whole issue, because today the track record of Pakistan is so poor that they are totally involved in terrorism. But in case they come out of grey list, it will be extremely bad for the whole world. The irony is that Pakistan has got a sham democracy.
So what should be done?
It is a control.
General, what should be done then? What should be done to fix Pakistan?
But 2-3 things need to be done. One is that internationally we have to collect together. We have to put pressure on US. We have to put the pressure that Pakistan should not be supported more than requirement. Okay, US can play a very major role. Though USA needs Pakistan, unfortunately it does not put that much pressure. But the only way is that tell Pakistan, America to put pressure on Pakistan. Second thing is, indirectly you can also put pressure on China to put pressure on Pakistan. There can be a mechanism. And third is that in the all international forum, name and shame Pakistan. Also ensure that
I don't think Pakistan is bothered about shaming now.
I know that unfortunately that's the thing, because your options are limited. Understand a raw country like Pakistan, how do you handle? Because the point is, it is 1/6 of our size, 1/10 of our economy, and 80% of our military is with Pakistan. What for it is having such a big, large defense forces? So the point today is Pakistan is a rogue state, and we have got a very less leverage. The only way we can handle it, we have to guard ourselves, ensure there is a counter-infiltration grid, do not let the terrorists come, and pay back the Pakistan in the coin and language which it understands, and modernize your army so that it can, defense forces, so that you can address both the front, not only the western but also northern front against Chinese. You know, you have to be well prepared for that. If you think you can mend Pakistan, I don't think that is possible, feasible. But try your best to raise this issue in an international forum. Try to make something like Quad, which we have made it against China. That today what is happening is this UAE and Saudi Arabia are no more with it. It has been isolated in Islam. Than Turkey and Malaysia and China, there are not too many countries today with Pakistan. Pakistan is isolated. maybe that will also make a difference.
Right.
But all said and done, until Allah Pakistan is not placed on a blacklist, Pakistan is unlikely to understand anything.
Yeah.
And we have to get along with the other democracies of the world and make sure that Europe understand that what Pakistan is doing against the humanity of the world. It is sponsoring terrorism.
Right.
It is nothing
Right.
doing nothing else but which can be a cause of concern for complete world peace in time to come.
Yeah, right. We have to close, but one last question to Ambassador Vora. As you heard, Sivach saying what options are available for us, but at the same time, when you talk about international consensus or as you mentioned about America 9/11 and all, but after that, I mean, Pakistan realized that attack was a mistake, and after that, now Pakistan and its proxies are deliberately avoiding Americans. Even if you talked about Afghanistan, Taliban has, after this deal, they have not been targeting American forces there. So they are now clever
Which
not to
is-
target Americans. So
Well,
what do you say on that?
The Americans, Mr. Kaul, are also smart enough to realize that before 9/11 they were not targeted on the homeland. But then you cannot, as that lady Hillary Clinton said, you cannot rear snakes in your backyard and expect them to bite only your neighbors. The only way to induce change in Pakistan's behavior, sir, is the threat of international isolation. The 2016 SAARC summit, which was to be held in Islamabad, was cancelled after being boycotted by us, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Bhutan. And as the General has rightly said, let us work to boot Pakistan into the FATF blacklist so that it gets no financial support from international institutions like the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, Asian Development Bank, European Union, and no one in his right mind would invest there. The people of Pakistan will then rise to throw out this military whose second name is terrorism.
Right. So we had to, on this note, we had to close, and I think thank you for both of you for participating in this debate today.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another important topic tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.